This
So
conference will now be recorded.
the big question for everybody right now is, when is the economy going to fully recover? I think everyone's looking at that, and who knows? But there are things that we are looking at, that the economists are looking at, other people are looking at as well. So this is what the experts are saying. The major financial institutions are calling for a second half of the year recovery. So we're looking at this data here. First quarter, this is when everything started tanking. We had an awesome January and February, and then things started hitting in February, March. What we're looking at in quarter two, look at Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo, all calling for a very deep dip in the 2020 GDP. But look at third quarter. All the major financial institutions outside of Wells Fargo are calling for a recovery. And then fourth quarter, a full recovery for all of them. So that's real positive, very, very positive information here. The way we're looking at things nowadays, according to the experts, there's a business science as to how has the economy rebounded from similar slowdowns in the past. So we look at the history of all this, what's happened in the past. But there's something also to look at, which is the health science. When will the COVID-19 be under control? And will there be another flare-up of the virus's fall? A lot of unknowns, especially as we're starting to open up the economies around the world. And then there's also the people science. After the businesses are fully operational, how long will it take American consumers to return to normal consumption patterns, such as going to the movies, attending sporting events, or flying? Those are things that I know are going to take a long time, especially since major gatherings are still banned. That's the last phase of opening, according to the governor. She's talking about no sporting events through September. I don't know how it's going to work with college football. We're all talking about concerts being canceled, all festivals canceled. I don't know how about even church is going to function. So these are all things that we have to look at. And even when things are open, how comfortable will people feel to go back to those sort of activities? Don't know. This is another thing we have no idea. The one thing we do know, however, is that what some people were predicting, which is an L-shaped recovery. The L-shaped recovery is when everything tanks and stays down. That's not going to happen. The predictions are all for a V-shape or a U-shaped recovery. And we'll have to see how that evolves. So according to the chief economist at Freddie Mac, although the uncertainty of the crisis means forecasts of economic activity are more unclear than usual, we expect that most of the economic damage from the virus will be contained to the first half of the year. Going forward, we should see a recovery starting in the second half of 2020. Again, these are all the experts. Chief economist at Freddie Mac has some good head knowledge. All those financial institutions, these guys follow patterns. That's what the predictions are. Even CNBC says evidence is mounting that home buyers may be coming back to the market after demand plummeted in the past month due to the coronavirus. We are seeing that. We are seeing the phones ringing. We are seeing people being interested again. You guys are seeing that out in the when you're out there showing property. You're seeing people, buyers, contact you. I spoke with a broker yesterday, writing up 3 offers. 3 offers. He's working with 3 different buyers right now. 3 offers coming in. That's amazing. So here has been what has happened with real estate showings in North America from COVID-19. So you can see weekly showings normalized to the first calendar week of January 7th. And so in January, we know January after Christmas, everything was going up. January and February were amazing. And then, of course, everything fell off the cliff in March. It just plummeted. We had buyers who were coming to town cancel their trips. We had sellers pull their home off the market. We had everybody all of a sudden going into a holding pattern. So you can see it just fell way, way down. But the last 4 weeks, starting in April, things have been on an uptick. We're almost back to the levels of showings at the beginning of January after Christmas. That is truly amazing. People, there is pent-up demand. People still want homes. They still need homes. And we have positive outlooks happening here. I think this is very, very encouraging. Showing Time, by the way, is where the slide's from. They are one of the major institutions that track showings across the country. So here's also what's happened with U.S. home ownership rates. U.S. home ownership rates are on an uptick. What happened here, this goes back to 1996, and you can see that during the housing bubble, where, remember, the thought process here is we had the no-doc loans so that everybody needed to have a home, and so people who weren't qualified to purchase purchased. And then when the housing bubble burst, everything tanked way, way, way down. But we're on an uptick again. So coming into right now, people are back into the home buying. Now we were in the recovery mode here, but we're talking about people who actually owned homes. And now people are more likely to get back into owning homes. If you look at that, we're back up to 65% of people into home ownership rates. And often one of the reasons why are people getting back into home ownership, we're talking about what's happening with rent. And so since 1988, how much the asking rent median price has gone up. And we know in Central Oregon, rent rates have been through the roof. And so, and we all know with rentals, people do not have the economic opportunities that come from home ownership, in which you're building equity with every monthly payment that you make. So people are recognizing the value to own a home, which is another thing that's drawing and driving people purchasing. So here's also a very interesting tool to look at. So what has happened as far as the percentage of homeowner equity? What happened to the slide? That's really weird. This was totally spot on yesterday. Anyway, the value of people who own 100% of their home equity, I think it's at 42, 43%. So those are the number of people who own their home free and clear. And here, there's another, I think it was 16% of people who own 60 to 99% of their home. So they have no debt, very, very limited debt. Right now, the people who have less than 10% ownership or equity in their home is only 7.3%. So this is very fascinating as well too. We have people really having a large amount of money tied up in their home. Their equity is huge. The fact that we have about 42% of people owning their home free and clear is significant. Unlike the housing bubble, where people were leveraging their home, think about that. People were taking the home equity out of their home and using it to go on a lavish vacation, to pay for a boat, to buy a lot of toys. There were people who were using that all the time. Right now, when people are taking money out of their home, it's typically, if you've even looked at potentially doing that yourself, or HELOCs, I know the HELOC has changed their criteria. If you're going to take money out of your home equity for something, is to put more value into your home. So you're doing a remodeling of your home. You need to replace your roof, things like that. That's the value. That's how you're supposed to be using your HELOC, and people actually are. So people are using your home the way they're supposed to. So I was correct on that. So Americans are sitting on a tremendous amount of equity. 42.1% of homes are owned free and clear. And people who have at least 60% equity in their home is 58.7%. That's fabulous. People are building wealth in their home. On an average, the average equity of homes in the United States that are mortgaged is $177,000. So across the country, people who have mortgages on their home on an average have $177,000 in equity. So people have a lot of home value tied into their property. A lot of money is in there. So here leads us to the next question here. What about the job losses? That's something here. So this is what's happened since March 21st through May 2nd. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics weekly unemployment filings in millions. So what happened here? March 21st, 3.3 million. March 28th, 6.9 million people in the United States filed for unemployment. The amount of people who are filing each week is progressively going down, which is very much, I mean, this is terrible statistics. Terrible statistics. We know the right now how many people across the country are out of work, but at least it's not on an uptick, it's on a downtick as far as new weekly people filing for unemployment. The big hit was right here. But what does that mean as to who is in the market that's being unemployed? So right now, this is as of May 8th. And you look at here, the big number here, 37.6% of people are servers and bartenders unemployed. That's a huge number. We know it. It's all the restaurants. It's everyone who works in a restaurant. I know restaurants are struggling. The encouragement here is that they're going to be able to start opening up again with proper social distancing and proper safety precautions. Very, very encouraging with that. But this is the biggest people who are hit. Second biggest, retail, 10.2%. Yeah, these are national statistics here. Retail, and again, as we're starting to open our shops, they say Friday we're going to be able to start opening up in downtown. So very encouraged about that, but these people are very much hurt. Temporary services, these are people who would be temp services. You need a temporary employee. Temp services hit hard, 10.2%. Doctor's offices, these would be dentists and doctors and all the people, the nurses, all the people who work in the offices, the reception work, the people who follow for insurance claims, all that, 6.8% nationally. Now, I know that our doctor's offices in Oregon are back to work. So in Oregon, this will be definitely going way down. Arts and entertainment, 6.3%. Now, this is going to take time. Unfortunately, the people who work in arts and entertainment, people with the traveling Broadway shows, people who are working in the movie industry, people who are filming things. I mean, these people have definitely been hurt. It's going to take time. People doing concerts, people who are involved in the road crew, all that sort of stuff, arts and entertainment. Manufacturing, that's starting to come back. It just depends on how quickly all those shops and all those factories can get up and running. Childcare, we know that that's something that is starting to happen. It's supposed to start happening now in Oregon. Daycare workers need to get back to work so that people who have children can go back to work. Construction, we're very fortunate in our state that construction was not shut down. There are some places where it was shut down. It was not considered an essential service, and that's definitely impacted people. Government, that's another one. Government, of course, this is a lot of local government. People who be working in our government offices, people would be being reception working there. People who are working in the back of the government office, in the planning department. I mean, I know that last week I had need to call the planning department on some questions, and I ended up talking to two different people who were working at home. And I think they were very excited to take a phone call. Both of them seemed to have a lot of extra time on their hand that they were able to talk with me for quite some time. Hotels, I know they've been devastated, coming back slowly. I read in the paper today that our McMenamins here is supposed to start opening up again, which is great. And then, of course, everything else. So again, these are who has been most impacted by the unemployment rates across the country. Terrible for all the people here, encouraging to think that they may be coming back. However, that's 14.7%. Remember that statistic, people who are unemployed. But that means that a whole bunch, that would, again, for some reason, my data here is not working. 80 whatever, are employed. The difference between 100 and 14.7. So that means we have a bunch of people who are still working, even though it's terrible for the 14.7% unemployed, a whole bunch of people are still employed. Also, of the people who are out of work right now, 90% of them think it's temporary. that they will be back to work. 90% temporarily out of work. 10% is permanent out of work. So among those who are unemployed, who are they? 13% are adult men, 15.5% are adult women, and 31.9% are teenagers. One reason why we see a lot of teenagers kind of walking around in groups because they don't have a job to go to and with school out, even though they might be doing some homeschooling. When they're done with their homeschooling, what can they do? So unfortunately, a lot of teenagers are out of work too. Okay, however, what is the anticipation for unemployment rates to return to the pre-crisis level? This, I think, is fascinating because people, you hear across the news that they're comparing what's happened to us to the Great Depression. Yes, there's been a lot of people all of a sudden out of work. It's terrible. But if you look at the predictions and actually the reality of a couple of these things. So the red line here is Goldman Sachs prediction. They're anticipating by year 2 coming out of this, we're going to be back to the pre-hit level of employment by year 2. JP Morgan, they had a bigger dip than what we had happened. That was their prediction. They thought 20% down. We were less than that. But they're saying we're going to come back even stronger, not even having to go back to year 2. But the Great Recession of 2006 to 2016, it took 9 years before we were back to pre-crisis level for full employment, 9 years. And the Great Depression of 1929 to 1942, it took 12 years. And the dip was way, way worse. Also during the Great Depression, for those of us who had parents who lived through that, and you've heard stories, it was really hard. There was no unemployment insurance. There was no government assistance. There was no food stamps or anything like that. It was really, you're out of work, you're on your own, you're relying upon charity of others, people doing anything to earn a living. And one reason why people who lived through that Depression era have a kind of a mindset sometimes is that we can't ever throw anything away because you never know when you're going to need it, or you got to eat every bite on your plate because, you know, it's waste if you don't. It was a very tough time for people who lived through the Depression. The predictions here is that we went down real fast, but the anticipation is we're going to come back up real fast too. So what is the biggest threat now to housing and what we do for a living? And really, the biggest threat we're dealing with right now is lack of inventory. Housing supply remains at historically low levels, so house price growth is likely to slow, but is not likely to go negative. And that is from Mark Fleming, who's a chief economist with First American. That's what we're seeing. That's what we've been seeing all the way through. We're going to go into some state and local figures on that in just a little bit. So this is, again, national. These charts show what seller traffic was like in February, and then what seller traffic was like in March, along with buyer traffic. We don't have figures yet for April, but this shows that we didn't have enough homes on the market. And everything in gray means there was not enough homes on the market for the demand in February. The light blue is stable. That means it's pretty balanced. And the dark blue means you had lots of homes on the market, lots of homes on the market, Wyoming and in Alaska in February. In March, we had across the country lack of inventory, major issue, almost every single state. Whereas in February, buyer traffic, these are people looking for homes across the country, huge, huge demand. Huge demand. And again, still in March, starting to get a little bit less buyer traffic in California and the light blues, but still, there's still massive demand with little inventory. And again, Oregon, as we know, hardly any inventory, lots of demand. So what do we need to do right now? It's a good question. We need to be able to comfort and help people. The data tells us people are looking for two things, help and comfort. If you're able to help them to navigate the current situation, tell them about that. Think like a caring human being with the resources to help millions and act accordingly in the mutual interest of business and society. It's so true. People are looking for answers. People are seeing and hearing in the news that we're falling off a cliff. That's the Great Depression, that we've even heard from people who've called in asking where are those deals in Bend now, since they're going to be so everyone's house price is taken because of the situation. That's not happening. It's definitely not happening, and you know that just as well as I do. So the cool and the good advice here is to make your message simple and effective. People know your stuff, but be able to relay it to them. Remain really current about all what's going on with housing, and mix what's happening within our current market with what's happening in the nation. And again, use videos on social media and Zoom meetings. Thank you, Bill. Great idea. Again, Zoom is free if you're on Zoom for less than 40 minutes. So you can have Zoom meetings with your clients. It's awesome. It's a way of talking and communicating with them really, really well. So these are some really good ideas about what we can do. But now let's take a look at what's been going on locally. And so I pulled the data for Bend for us, April 22 versus April 2019. April 2020, excuse me, versus April 2019, since we now have that data down. So listings, we are down in listings. We only had 16 new listings in last month versus 23 in 2019, down about 31% on that. Pendings, we had 34 properties go pending in 2020, whereas 43 in 2019. So we're down 21% in that. And closings, we had 28 in 2020 and 37 in 2019. So we're down 24% in closings. That, however, in volume, if you look at that, we had 19 million in volume in 2020 and 21 million in volume in 2021, or just down 9%. Now, I have to say 5 million of that was Danielle's big closing. So thank you, Danielle. That was an amazing, amazing closing, and really the highest closing I think that they had in all of MLS for that entire month. Really wonderful, phenomenal thing. But Bend Premier is
you did too kind. I was blessed and honored to be able to work on that. Thank you.
You're good people, and you worked really hard on that, Danielle. Yeah, I can't wait till we can all get together and we can all pull out some champagne to toast that. I really want to do that, really bad. Anyway, so this was what happened with Bend Premier. However, we're doing a lot better than I would say Bend in general. Now, I don't know if you guys have gotten used to looking at the Flex charts. When you pull up the graphs there in Flex, my normal graphs I've always pulled in the past have been with zip codes 97701, 02, and 03, and single family homes on less than an acre. So I can get more single family residential. When I'm pulling up on Flex, I have no way of differentiating Bend by zip codes. So these figures are also pulling in Sun River because, that's 97707, but it's considered Bend because it's unincorporated. So it's pulling in a whole lot of stuff. Also with residential, I can't pull in with this chart single family only. So this is pulling in everything from manufactured to condos to townhomes and everything that is considered now in Flex as Bend. But you can still see April of 2019, the number of listings here. Looks like 1,000, maybe 1,100 listings. And then April of 2020 were less than 800 listings. So again, across the difference between 2019 and 2020, far fewer listings. Listing prices compared April of 2019, less than, this is the active median list price, which is less than, I don't know, 575, now around 600,000. Absorption rate, again, that's how many homes actually get, less than how many homes that go on market get sold. And again, in April, we had over 4 months supply. Now, April 2020, less than 3 months still. So again, even though there's fewer number of listings, we still don't have enough supply for the demand. The days on market have plummeted, and again, the price volume has gone on there too. So in this case, I had another way of pulling up this information on a different chart with Flex. I know they're going to have nicer charts soon. It's still coming. It's just not there yet. But I was able to pull up in here bin single family residential sales, just the data from 2020 versus 2019, comparing just April. So in this case, we had 16% fewer homes on the market inactive. And as far as new listings in April, we were down 35% compared with the year before. New pendings down 42%. Now remember, with Ben Premier, our pendings were down about 35%. So it's nothing, not as bad as other places. Solds down 6%. But again, sold volume up. Average sales price, this is a big thing for people to understand, still going up 9%. Median sales price up 1%, and the percentage of list price is to sales price is unchanged. So in other words, sellers are sticking to their guns, holding the price firm, and getting it. So this is what I am seeing locally, and then here is Portland. So I just pulled some information off of RMLS so we could see this as well. And right here, April, new listings down 32%, pending sales down 34%, flow sales down 16%, but prices still going up. This is what the state is seeing. And now I kind of wanted to open this up to see if you guys could share a little bit with me about what you're seeing. I'm going to open this up so I can, got a couple questions here. Oh, okay. Does anyone here have anything that they want to share with us? Because I would love to talk with you guys and hear what you have to say. I could unmute you guys, or if you'd just like to unmute yourself if you have something you'd like to share, and then you can, after you're done talking, we can mute your mic again. That would be awesome. Does anyone have anything that you want to talk about and share?
I want to ask Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, if anybody hasn't heard it yet, Larry Walls has a YouTube video that just came out. He did for COAR, which is pretty comprehensive and informative about the lending market right now, and a lot of changes going on. You might want to see it.
I know that they, yeah. Can you give us a couple highlights, Joe?
Well, let me think about it a minute. The criteria has changed a lot. A lot of lenders are not doing any cash backs at all. I had heard that last week. The credit ratings have gone up. I think 680 is about the lowest it gets now. There's a lot of information in there. I can't remember it all right now, but pretty, and it's like closings on loans are easily out 3 months sometimes.
3 months, really?
Yeah, I just had a refi and it was 3 months. I can tell you that. Some stuff, a lot of information about forbearance in there too, which and what happens to your credit in forbearance, and lot of good information. It's about a good 30-minute YouTube. You guys should see it.
Do you have the link for that, Joe, that you could forward to me and I can forward it to everybody?
Yeah, I do. I will.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I do have a deal under contract, and I'm working with a lender from Prime Lending who is ready to go and saying that purchases are being prioritized over refinances, and his appraiser is freed up. So we should be able to close within 30 days. So I'm excited about that.
That's great. It could be that it's the The thing that's delayed are the refis. That might be the situation. I know that appraisal requirements are different now on refis versus new loan purchases. Heard that. Yeah. I'd also heard that, I do know now with loans that they are doing double employment verification. They're doing a second employment verification just a few days before closings because of all these, everyone who's been losing their job. They just want to verify that these people still have jobs. So before they actually grab the loan.
Yeah, Linnea,
Yeah.
refis do take a backseat to new purchases.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And it is quite often the refis that are running to 90 days.
Yeah. You know, things have been very strange, but I have to tell you, over the weekend, we had 5 new deals go into contract over the weekend. So people are working out there. We are having activity happen. And on the 15th, I don't know if all these are going to happen. We're expecting 9 closings on the 15th of this month. I'm anticipating, just like it has been, that some of these will be delayed. But right now, they're all booked for the 15th to have 9 closings in our office. Hi, Cinda.
Hi, I was gonna say mine's closing the 15th, and let's just keep our fingers crossed because it was a floor time appointment.
It was a floor appointment, floor
Yes.
call? Floor?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love hearing those stories. I've also heard stories that people are connecting a lot with internet leads right now and converting those too, which is really encouraging. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, on a lending note, one of my closings is on the 15th, and we only got in, it was a multiple offer situation, and they were afraid of how long these loans will take. So we switched to all cash and bumped the other people, and we got our offer through because it was cash and not a loan.
That's wonderful, Diane. Yeah, if your clients have that opportunity. We are seeing multiple offers.
Yes.
I'm seeing quite a few multiple offers again. And don't forget, when we get into a multiple offer scenario, there are some strategies that we can pull out there, such as the escalation clause. In fact, one of our brokers was telling me they were hearing from the listing broker that there were multiple offers, but didn't trust them. But her buyer still wanted the home. We pulled out the escalation clause, which requires that the other side produce proof of the other offer to verify that our offer is definitely, what, $1,000 or whatever it was above the next best offer. And lo and behold, there ended up not being a multiple offer. So be aware of that too. I hate to ever accuse anybody of being dishonest. Sometimes brokers think, well, I've been told there's going to be a multiple offer or that there's another offer coming, and it never shows. But sometimes they fail to pass on that information that it never showed. And so it makes your client end up writing their offer for more than they probably wanted to initially. So just be aware of that too. Yeah. Does anyone else have something to share?
I do.
Yeah, Joe?
Hey, I don't know if anybody else is having struggles with Flex MLS, but I'm still somewhat baffled by the thing. And it's not easy to learn, I don't think. Maybe I'm just too old to be tech savvy, but I think it's complicated and difficult.
There are more things to learn with it than there were with Rapatoni. That's very true. I know we're challenged by it. Like I shared with you this morning, something we didn't know, that the coming soons, if you put a date on it, because you have to when you enter a coming soon into that section, you have to put a date where you anticipate it will be active. It goes live on that date. We didn't know that. So even if you're not ready, it will go live on that day, and we're just trying to fix that right now because, surprise, surprise, it went live this morning and it wasn't ready. We didn't have the professional photos in there. So Got to fix that.
How does everybody else feel about it?
What I've heard, Joe. Oh, Leah, you have something?
Yes, two questions. One is, I feel like that Flex MLS is a little more difficult to navigate, but watching those videos on the menu dropdown has been tremendous help for setting up portals and all that kind of stuff.
Good.
So maybe watch some videos again. Those are helpful. And then, is there any word on when we can do open houses again?
That's a good question, Leah. I'm going to reach out to OAR today. They have a COVID hotline now, and I'm going to ask. I'm going daily onto the OAR website to see about their predictions or what they say we can do now based upon the changes to what the governor has said we can and cannot do. There has never been, you can't do open houses. There has never been anything that says from the governor that you can't do an open house. The issue is we have to maintain social distancing. You have to be very, very careful, make sure everything, I mean, there are a couple of brokers here not from our office, but from others in Central Oregon I've heard about that are doing open houses by appointment only. So they're saying between 1 and 3, we're going to have the house open. First person is scheduled for this 20-minute period will get in, things like that. NAR has never said you can't do open houses, but again, we can't have mass numbers of people coming into a home where they might be wandering around, touching things. It's just in this era of keeping things under control, making sure people are hand sanitizing, keeping their distance from people. I think making sure they put booties on, everything we can do to keep the potential for any of the surfaces in our sellers' homes to become infected with COVID-19 is a good thing. But Leah, that's an excellent question, and I'll try to get more clarity on that and send that out as well. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for anybody? Oh, and I hope you haven't had a chance yesterday. It was so nice. So many people came into the office. It was really fun to see people popping in here. Brittany is here. If you haven't had a chance to meet Brittany, she is here. I'm just thrilled to have her working here. She's learning. Emily's been throwing everything at her from SkySlope to she's doing all the RMLS input, all the Craigslist stuff, and we're looking forward to having her take on more and more responsibility. She's doing Instagram now. In fact, Leah, I don't know if you got to see what she did yesterday. She did an Instagram story on your listing, and she linked it to Ben Premier's story as well. And it was kind of fun to see. So she did. It was just about 3 photos of your listing there on was it Larson? I believe it was Larson. So she's got some great ideas. Did you see that, Leah?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Yeah, so she's a millennial. She knows how to do Instagram, which I don't. So I'm glad she's taking that on. Awesome. Okay. If anyone else has anything you want to pass on to me, let me know. I'm thrilled to keep working with you guys. Keeping the social distancing. I'll let you know as soon as we can open the office or open houses. Again, with the floor calls coming in, make sure you look at your schedule because we are passing the floor calls on to the listing agent. So feel free to reach out. Let me know if you have questions, and I'll let you know when we can start having our regular floor here at the office as well. If nothing else, we'll see you later, guys. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.